lovelies, it's Lio. Today I have a DIY video tutorial for one of the hottest staple nail looks out there, the French fade, also known as the boomer fade. This is basically a take on a French manicure which incorporates the trend of ombres and gradients. It's also way easier for a DIY nail artist to execute than the straight, perfectly symmetrical smile line of a traditional French. This look can stand on its own, but once you know how to do it, you can schmancy it up a bit with small DIY decals, glitter, crystals, whatever. And you know what goes well with small DIY decals, glitter, crystals, and especially whatever? Nail art! Let's get to it! Let's start off talking polish selection. I tend to prefer nude polishes when I do a traditional French, but when I do a French fade, I go far darker and especially more pink than I would otherwise. With a traditional French, there's that straight, crisp line between the colors, so it's easy to see the difference between them. With the fade, because it's a gradient, if I use a lighter nude, it's really hard to tell I did anything. Mom will explain when you get older. So I chose this polish, which is a lighter pink, but it is definitely pink plus a white. My nails are cleaned, prepped, and base coated. Depending on how opaque your polishes are, you may want to start with a painted on coat of either your white or nude before you start building the fade. If you want to build the opacity from scratch, the finished result will be just as lovely, but require more cleanup. The vital tool here is a wedge makeup sponge. Not an expensive beauty blender, the old school triangle ones that actually kinda suck for makeup. I couldn't find my big pack of new ones, so my low budget lovely tip is to reuse them by cutting off narrow slices of used sponge to reveal a new surface ready for polish. I'm only using nail scissors here to cut this slice off because I can't find my regular scissors right now either. Once the sponge gets saturated with lacquer, you can't really reuse that part of it, but each sponge generally lasts me for 3 or 4 manis. At $1.67 per pack of 32 sponges, that's a great deal for a nail art tool. I always put the color I want close to my cuticle, right at the bottom of the sponge, so I have a sort of roadmap when I'm going ham with the polish. If I put the end of the sponge right at the cuticle, I know my finished product is going to be somewhat consistent. Just paint and dab. That's it. Seriously. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. The biggest issue I've run into is I frequently dab using the same sponge too long. If your sponge starts to stick to your nail while you dab, cut off that slice and keep it rolling. If you try to stretch it, the sticky sponge will start to lift any dried polish already on your nail, and it will be a patchy mess. It may take a couple rounds of dabbing before it's good and opaque. Using polish, there isn't really a good alternative to the sponge. If you have acrylic paint on hand, you can paint your nail with solid pink lacquer, top coat it, and then fade some white in using a Q-tip or brush, but this takes a considerable amount of skill and artistry and time, whereas just hacking away at your nail with a sponge is as easy and quick as it gets. The tough part about this is actually the cleanup. If you don't have a latex barrier or whatever, you'll have to make like me and use Q-tips dipped in acetone or remover around the outside, then a cleanup brush to get in nice and close to the cuticle for a smooth line. Then make sure you follow up with some nail oil, cause ooh, that's dry. Just add a top coat and that's it. We'll use this French fade and other gradient options as a background in a lot of nail art going forward, so I thought it might be helpful to have a standalone guide. The possibilities are now endless. I like flipping the sponge around and using the very tip of the sponge to apply a little glitter to the tip of my nail for one. What can I say? I like shiny things. I'll see you next time.